Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel in this video. So today we're going to talk about toxic leadership and just a toxic environment in general. So a little bit about me. The reason I am so passionate about helping businesses and individuals who want to be in a positive work environment is because I have seen the horrible effects of a toxic work environment on staff morale, staff retention, productivity, sustainability of the program or business, and providing services that they wanted to provide. They couldn't do that anymore if staff leave and the program doesn't succeed and there's no productivity. So, all of these are horrible consequences of being in a toxic work environment. And the real damage and danger is for the people working there. So staff are working so hard, and usually it's a pretty intense job. I worked as a first responder for mental health, and we were on call 24/7 for the days that we were on call and dealing with very tough situations. And our clinical judgment had to be 100%, 110%. So if you are dealing with all of that and you don't have support on your team or from your leadership because you're in a toxic work environment, you're having to deal with the stress from your job and also the stress from your environment. So I've worked in a couple of environments where staff were called in every day to be yelled at, saying they did a horrible job. Even though everybody knew that they were doing a great job, it was more of a power move and a control move. So some of these places really wanted you to be loyal to them no matter what, to say, right, like whatever they were doing or saying, we're going to support you, we're going to stay with you forever. Like they wanted that level of not even dedication, but just kind of like blind faith. But that's not what you hired the staff for. You hired them for their clinical judgment and expertise, not to just go along with whatever's going on. So that doesn't jive, right? So value alignment. When I work with my clients, I focus on value alignment because is what you're doing at work aligned with your values? And also, is the environment aligned with your values? Are you being treated appropriately? And, some jobs are tough and things don't always go well. And that's fine. That's a different issue. But I'm talking about actually abusive environments. So environments where people are afraid every day. They go in fear because somebody's bullying them or threatening them with either their job or sometimes like personal threats about their life. I know that some people have been like blacklisted. So basically they're like, if you leave here, I'm going to make sure you don't find another job. So horrible stuff like that. And that's really tough to push through and get over because sometimes the job is the only job in the area where you're at and you have a lease, you have a family, you have financial responsibilities. But that's actually part of why these individuals do that because they know that that you are stuck there. So like a power play. Like they know that you need the job and you can't just leave. Sometimes, and sometimes they're wrong and sometimes not because some people reach a red line, like a line in the sand that I like to call it, where this is just too much. Like you've reached a point where you cannot stay there. I know for me, it's a lot of ethical stuff. Like if I feel like there's unethical behavior or we're not serving clients the way that we're supposed to because of what's going on, I can't stay because it's just damaging to staff. The program is going to be affected and we're not serving the clients that we need to serve. So, for me, that's a deal breaker. So for you, you have to decide what is your value alignment. What is the deal breaker for you? Like, do you need to feel appreciated at work? Do you need to feel like you're on the same team with everyone? Like you're all working towards the same goal? Like everyone has the same vision and mindset to achieve that same goal. And that's obviously the kind of the ideal situation, right? Of you are coming in and getting buy-in from everybody to reach the goal of the organization or program that you're spearheading or running or starting. So that's obviously great. But there's also just like like respect for boundaries. So let's say your son is sick and you need to leave early. Are you able to do that, or do you feel guilty? Do you feel stressed? Do you think your work won't get done? All those are red flags that maybe that's not the alignment. Like you and your workplace is not an alignment. I know for me, I would travel a lot, and if the workplace that I was at didn't have a robust travel policy, I couldn't take the job. So that was a deal breaker for me. So we all have those deal breakers, and we have to figure out, what is it for you? Is it being on call? Is it working overnights? Is it people calling you in the middle of the night or the morning, right? So they're just little things that you decide, what is a deal breaker for you that just wouldn't work. The values and also just the practical day to day. So gaslighting. I wanted to touch on gaslighting because that unfortunately happens quite often. I'm not sure why, but there are certain individuals that get to a position, not always even a leadership position, but a position of power in their organization where they won't be fired, and there's going to be no consequences. Or if there's consequences, it's not enough to stop them from their behavior. Because anytime we think about consequences, the consequence has to be detrimental enough for the individual to stop their behavior. And if it's not, it's ineffective. So the gaslighting that I've seen would be kind of creating a false reality in the workplace. So having one or a couple of individuals telling the employee, or really anyone, it could even be somebody in power, that they have some power, but they're still gaslighting them. So they're always questioning them. So if they say, we need to implement this into our program, or this is a new law that we have to follow, state law, they will always talk back. Oh, that's not the state law, or are you sure? Or no, that's wrong, or this is what it is. So they try to get doubt into your leadership from in front of other people, so others don't listen to you, or don't have faith in you, or just realize that there's some type of conflict, so they would have to choose a side. So that's part of gaslighting, is questioning them, undermining their expertise. Like always asking them things or undercutting them. So there was an individual who, she had a couple of different skill sets, and her job was organizing all the data for the programs and giving outcomes and things like that. And so when they were trying to gaslight her, they would say, oh, you're good at only this, like trying to minimize her expertise, which, right, is just trying to say, hey, you're not good at all the other stuff that you're doing at your job, because they didn't want her to be taken seriously, because they didn't want to follow those rules. Causing conflict constantly, threatening emails was a big one, threatening people in meetings so they wouldn't speak up, degrading people, devaluing them, just making them feel like either they were ineffectual or they weren't being taken seriously, even if that's not true. And that's the really sad part. Well, there's a lot of sad parts in this, but the really negative part too is that other people would be would not speak up. They were afraid to speak up. So they would tell me that they didn't feel comfortable speaking up. And these were people in leadership positions as well. So even though they might not agree with what's being said, the impression it leaves when you are devaluing and being aggressive is that your word is the last word in this situation. Even though that's not really true, but that's kind of what happens. So people won't speak up, and if somebody